For most of my life, I believed my story was simple. My dad left, that's what my mother always said. He walked out when I was just a baby, and never looked back. There were no photos of him, no stories, no keepsakes, not even a name I could connect with a face. It was like he had vanished into thin air. And when I asked questions, my mom's answers were always the same. He didn't want us. He wasn't ready to be a father. You're better off without him. And because I was a child, I believed her. I had no reason not to. But as I got older, the cracks in that story started to show. It wasn't in anything she said, but in what she didn't say. I'd ask again about him on Father's Day, and her eyes would dart away. On my birthdays, I'd wonder if he ever thought about me, and she'd change the subject. It was always deflection, always discomfort, and deep down, a part of me began to wonder, what if the truth wasn't that he left, but that he was pushed away? It wasn't until I turned 19 that the truth began to unravel. I had come home for the summer from my first year of college. One afternoon, I was helping my mom clean out the attic. Boxes of old clothes, Christmas decorations, report cards. That's when I found a dusty shoebox, tucked away beneath some old blankets. It didn't look important, just worn cardboard and a few rubber bands. But something about it pulled me in. I opened it, expecting old photos, or maybe childhood drawings. What I found instead nearly knocked the air out of me. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to me, all unopened. The return address was the same on every envelope. A man's name, a name I didn't recognize, but immediately knew. I flipped one open, hands shaking, heart pounding. The handwriting was neat, but urgent. Dear Jordan, it read, I think about you every day. I don't know if your mother reads these to you, but I hope she does. I hope one day you'll want to find me. I've never stopped loving you. I froze. I couldn't breathe. My knees gave out, and I sat there, surrounded by a decade of words that had never reached me. He hadn't left. He had been writing, reaching out, loving me from a distance, and my mother, my own mother, had hidden it all, lied to my face, let me grow up believing I was unwanted. The rage came slow at first, a numb kind of fury. I couldn't even look at her that night. When I finally confronted her, she didn't deny it. She just sighed and said, I did what I thought was best. Best for who? I screamed. Best for me. Because 10 years of silence, confusion, and abandonment didn't feel like the best. It felt like betrayal, like erasing someone's existence because it made things more convenient. She tried to justify it, said he was unstable when I was born, that he didn't have a job, that she was scared, that she didn't want me getting hurt. But none of that explained the letters. None of it excused hiding a man's effort to be part of his child's life. You didn't even give him a chance, I said through gritted teeth. You made that choice for me. And now I'll never get back those years. The rest of the summer, I barely spoke to her. I took the box with me when I returned to college. Every night, I read one letter, slowly, deliberately. I listened to this man pour his heart out, year after year, telling me about the books he read, the jobs he worked, the cities he moved through, always leaving a forwarding address, just in case I ever wanted to find him. He never gave up, and I knew what I had to do. It took time, months, actually. I hired a private investigator, using some savings I'd set aside for a trip. I gave him everything I had, names, return addresses, the few details the letters offered. And eventually, he found him. My father, living in a small coastal town, working as a mechanic. No wife, no kids, just a quiet, solitary life. And when I saw the picture of him, gray around the edges, worn but kind, I didn't feel fear. I felt something like coming home. The day I decided to drive out to meet him, I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my mother. I just packed a bag and drove 6 hours straight through. I rehearsed what I'd say 100 times in my head, none of it sounding right. What do you even say to a man who's been writing to you in the dark for a decade? Hi, I'm the kid you never got to meet. Nothing felt adequate, but I went anyway. He worked out of a garage just off the highway. When I pulled in, he was under a car, humming to himself. I stood there for a moment, frozen in place, and then I said his name. He slid out from under the car, wiping his hands on a rag, and looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. I'll never forget the way his face changed, confusion, then realization, then disbelief. "Jordan," he said, "is it really you?" I nodded, and for the first time in my life, I saw my father cry. He pulled me into a hug so tight, I thought he'd never let go. We sat on a bench outside the garage and talked for hours. He told me everything, how he and my mom had split up in a fight, how she refused to answer his calls, how he wrote letter after letter because it was the only thing he could do. He never stopped trying, not once. He showed me pictures he'd kept, me as a baby, the last one she ever sent before cutting him off. He had it laminated, worn from being handled so many times. "I used to talk to this picture," he said, "told it stories, told it about my day. I never thought I'd actually meet you." I cried too, for the lost years, for the child in me who had longed for this moment without even knowing it. We started building a relationship after that, slowly, carefully. I visited every other weekend. He came to one of my lectures when I gave a talk at my university. He didn't try to rush it, didn't try to replace what was lost. He just showed up, and for the first time in my life, I felt what it was like to be wanted, not out of duty or control, but out of love. When I finally told my mother what I'd done, she broke down. "I was afraid he'd take you from me," she said. "I didn't know how to share you, but it wasn't hers to hoard." I told her the truth. "You didn't protect me, you stole something from me, and I can't forget that." Forgiveness may come in time, but trust, that's a different story. To anyone out there who has questions about their past, ask them, dig for them, even if it's painful, because the truth may not always bring comfort, but it brings clarity, and sometimes, that's the only way to heal. My father didn't walk away, he was kept away, but I found him, and now, piece by piece, I'm building a bond that should have never been broken.